it's time to air my grievances with Vaush. I was watching a video the other day titled "Stop Flying, Stop It." And I have to say, Vaush is wrong.
Will these really help? I mean, it's space efficient. The Fart Huffer 9000. I think there was actually a statement made by some official or somebody related to the airline who designed it where they were like, actually, the fart sniffing shouldn't happen. Or it was literally some shit like, actually, unless a particularly powerful fart is made, you know, there should be no such effect. Wouldn't a socialist world also have this type of innovation, but instead of for profit, it's for ecological issues? No, we should just stop having people fly. Flying is bad. There's no way for a plane to ever be electric. It's not possible to have a green plane. There's no.
Vaush is wrong. Very wrong. There are electric aircraft right now. They currently exist.
Well, it was a very long wait, but just recently, Aviation's Alice electric aircraft took to the air for the first time. The company expects the distinctive fixed-wing model to be used mainly to carry 9 passengers on regional airline services. My colleague Hanneke Whitering was lucky enough to make the trip to Moses Lake in Washington State, and she was up before the birds to watch Alice make its first takeoff. Hanneke, what was that like? What did you see?
Yeah, so it was a beautiful morning. The plane took off about 20 minutes after sunrise. For a minute, we thought it might not actually take off because it taxied to the runway and then taxied back, but that only took about 30 seconds. They had to change something on the instrument display panel. They said the airplane came back to the runway, took off, flew 2 circles, and came back right where it took off. The whole flight only lasted about 8 minutes, which seemed kind of short, but Aviation says that that was exactly what they had planned for, and everything went according to the plan, and it was just a beautiful flight, a good day for Aviation.
That's excellent and very exciting too. I'm sure it's a bit like waiting for a new baby to arrive, and there's a certain amount of tension around these events. But once we got over the sort of initial excitement of the thing making its first flight, I think it's fair to say that there were also some surprises that day in terms of what Aviation is saying about the aircraft and what it now has in mind. Perhaps you could explain to us, you know, what seems to be different from what we'd perhaps expected.
Right, so the company had initially said that the aircraft was going to have a range of about 440 nautical miles, and they've shortened that now. Now they're saying it's going to be 250 nautical miles, which has to do with the battery technology. They were apparently anticipating that the battery technology would improve by the time they took flight, but it's still kind of lagging behind. So the batteries can only right now sustain about 250 nautical miles of range, but they're hoping that by the time the aircraft is in service, that they'll have better batteries and that the airplane will be able to travel farther.
Yeah. So basically, the main bottleneck when it comes to electric aircraft is battery tech. However, that battery tech is getting better and better all the time. We literally talked about how there was just a breakthrough with sodium-ion batteries that led to a capacity 4 times that of lithium-ion batteries. And that happened like a year ago. When more and more of this battery tech starts coming off production lines, it's going to be very, very effective, I think, when it comes to getting electric aviation more in a position to replace traditional aviation. But, you know, currently it's still kind of in its little like experimental phase. But let's you know what?
So if for whatever reason,
we'll take a look at this video real quick. Huh?
We're not going to have to jump out of the plane, but if for whatever reason we do have to jump out,
You're getting this, right? That's me, learning how to jump out of a plane. Specifically, that plane. But before we get to that, let me back up. So I recently went to Vermont to visit this company called Beta. Ta-da! And they've gotten a lot of attention recently because they're building a new kind of airplane. Not this one, but this one. And the thing that's so cool about the plane that they're building is it's electric.
The electric aircraft.
An electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircraft.
Combination of a helicopter and an airplane.
Now, when I think of electric airplanes, I think of those like tiny two-seater, like toy-looking things. Like very cool, but very small. I thought that the problem was the weight of batteries meant that electric airplanes just like weren't going to be that useful for a really long time. But the thing I forgot is that we've gotten a lot better at making batteries. All of those gains mean that electric airplanes are now starting to do more and more, and that's a really big deal. You already know that air travel is bad for the environment, but just look at this. This shows how just within our grandparents' lifetime, air travel has dumped more and more CO2 into our atmosphere. But also, just within that same lifetime, think about how air travel has transformed us. It's not just trade and transportation, it's like how we understand each other and the world. So we're in this moment where one of the most important innovations in human history is on a direct collision course with our future.
Yeah.
We've got to make better planes.
Exactly. We got to make better planes. And like that's what's really interesting, right, about the fact that this that 9-seater aircraft, even with a range of only 250 miles, right? Well, if you were instead transporting packages per se, maybe gutting out the interior and instead using it as a small cargo plane, well, that could be kind of interesting now, couldn't it? It could be interesting to turn that 250-mile range aircraft into something that can transport critical supplies, or can function as an additional like logistical point, or something that could, say, replace jet-fueled personal aircraft for the rich and famous. Because as we know, those dump a lot of CO2 into the atmosphere. What is the longevity of these planes? I don't know. Let's learn more.
And now
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that the longevity of the plane itself is fine. It's the longevity of the battery. The batteries probably need to be swapped out every now and then to maintain range.
we might have the tools to do it. So in this video, we're going to talk about the effort to build the future of airplanes, where we are now, where we're headed, and where we've been. That last part is the reason why I needed a parachute, and also a helmet, because while I couldn't actually fly in one of those electric planes, I can give you some aviation history in the most YouTube way possible.
Oh, and Xenomonic, the sodium-ion battery is really, really interesting for grid-scale storage. Not so much for, like, the batteries in our phones or anything, but there are advances being made with, you know, tiny, like, individual-scale batteries as well.
Up front?
Oh, yeah, you gotta be up front.
Excellent.
But here's the really key part, the part that gets me most excited. Building better planes isn't just an opportunity to reduce carbon emissions. It's also a chance to rethink planes themselves.
In the future, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft.
Electric vertical aircraft.
Electric aircraft.
The future of aviation.
We're learning about electric planes, Metal Kitty Mom.
I'm here to visit a very cool electric plane company.
The idea of electric aviation didn't start with climate change. Before airplanes, there were airships. Just like, look at these crazy sky whales. And some of those were electric. Here's one in 1883. This thing used a nearly 1,000-pound battery made from zinc and chlorine. But the more we flew, the more clear it became that batteries were too big and heavy to compete with burning liquid fuel, which is the problem that we've been trying to solve ever since. But hold on a sec, I want a drink. This is AG1. It's more than a greens powder. It's like energy boost, part daily free 1-year supply of vitamin D, and 5 free travel packs. So go check it out. Last sip. Now, back to the video.
Why don't we go to the battery study hall project? So what you can see at the very simplest level is the lithium-ion cell. And 18 of those cells are arranged in parallel to give us our basic building block of our battery pack. We take 14 of those battery modules and we arrange those in series, And now we end up with one battery pack. These batteries are the same lithium-ion cells that are used in a Tesla. So one of our battery packs right here has the same amount of energy that is in your standard Tesla car right now.
Okay, let's say you were trying to build an airplane. You've got two big ways to figure out how much energy you can store in a battery. Either volumetric, which is how much energy you can store in comparison to its size, or gravimetric, which is how much energy you can store in comparison to its weight. This is also called the specific energy. If you were building your plane in 2010, you would have needed this much space to output the same amount of energy as the average aviation fuel. And it would have had to weigh a whopping 50 times more. Plus, you'd have to consider the other factor here, which is when you fly in a fuel plane, you are burning the fuel as you fly, which means it gets lighter, and batteries don't. But in the last decade, batteries have gotten a lot smaller. And, crucially for planes, they've gotten lighter. You saw this happen. You saw it in your laptops, in your phones, in your electric cars. We're all a part of this story without even realizing it. And now, all of that innovation, that's being applied to electric planes. And it's important to understand this isn't just innovation in making the individual batteries themselves better. It's also innovation in how densely we can pack them together. But, no matter how you measure it, batteries are still far from fuel. But it's also not as though anyone's waiting for this moment to start building things. They're using what they already have. And what they already have is really cool.
We're using commercial off-the-shelf lithium-ion cells. And what I think is awesome about that is it shows what we're doing is real, it's here today, and it's achievable.
And maybe the most important factor in making it real and achievable, just look how much cheaper batteries have gotten. Okay, so all of this together means there's been this huge new wave of investment in electric planes. And along the way, we're redesigning what a plane looks and feels like. Beta's new electric plane is already flying around, but I am extremely not allowed inside it. I tried. But instead, I'm going to show you what it's like in a different way. This is a real cockpit of a Beta plane that they built inside of a simulation to train new pilots. Or me.
You have two different types of flight controls. Attitude is in your right hand, and power is in your left hand.
This is going to be a fun video game.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I like
I'm not
to
very
articulate
good at video
this.
games, just to clarify.
But are you good with attitude?
I have it.
And I want you to just focus on raising the lift lever until the aircraft starts to hover. You did it.
Now what?
Let go of everything. And I want you to notice how stable the aircraft is.
Yeah. Is this similar to real life?
It is.
Wow.
This is real physics.
At this point, you've probably noticed that this plane is not taking off like a normal plane. It's a vertical takeoff and landing. This isn't because it's electric, but the innovations work together. Electric batteries are heavier.
To be fair, Neuron, while this is a sim, they do have an actual plane that does actually fly. That they have flown around and works. Just letting you know, like, that it already exists.
But electric motors are actually lighter and smaller, so you have more options for where you put them on the
Pendragon's
plane.
seen the plane.
Here's
Okay.
roughly where the engines are on a big fuel passenger plane that you might take, versus a smaller fuel plane, versus an electric one. A very cool thing about trying so hard to build new kinds of planes is you get to rethink planes.
There's a lot of places that we can't get with conventional aircraft. Vertical takeoff and land is going to open up aviation to places that just simply don't have an airport. So you push that, and there you go. And you see these propellers stow. You are now a single engine aircraft. So we're going to have you land this aircraft. This is perfect, Cleo.
I'm about to land.
You're about to land. And nobody touched a single control but you.
There she is.
It's not very often I'm able to teach one of these and not have to help.
Really?
So you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, so these planes are awesome, but they're just not going to replace the big fuel
They're not gonna let her fly a real one, chat.
passenger planes that you might be used to anytime soon. But the thing
Oh
is,
damn, Pendragon, it flies out of my local airport and I'm right on the flight path. That's so cool. We have eyewitness sighting of the aircraft in question.
the really important piece to understand here is in order to make a huge difference, they don't have to. If the goal is reverse this skyrocketing emissions problem, and electric planes can only go fairly short distances, what we really need to know is what percentage of the emissions from aviation are from long versus short flights. No problem. Turns out you need to first break up flights into passenger versus freight, so us versus our stuff. And then within passenger flights, a third of emissions come from short-haul flights, which are defined as less than 1,500 kilometers or 932 miles. That's a lot. But there's some debate on how far exactly electric planes can go, and there's a whole problem with charging and how long people would wait to charge or freight would wait to be charged. But here's where it gets even better. If you break down emissions into even smaller chunks, the percent emissions actually look like this. Really short flights account for more emissions because the extra fuel used on takeoff is a greater percentage of the flight compared to cruising, and because we often use less efficient planes on short flights. So if you electrify these, you can make a real dent, even before you get to all of this. And then there's all of the freight, all of our stuff. This is what Beta is actually focusing on. Freight is super interesting because there's a chance, especially with vertical takeoff and landing, that you can actually also reduce carbon emissions from a totally different source outside of aviation. It's probably one of the reasons why UPS just signed a big deal with Beta. I don't know for sure, but I imagine that one of the big questions they're thinking about is, if you didn't have to rely on roads, how would delivery change? The point is, electric planes can help move us into the future without waiting to start in the future. So at the end of my visit to Beta, we talked about the future of airplanes, we'd seen all of this cool stuff, and they were like, do you want to see how far we've come? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, do you want to do it in a 1940s airplane?
You want to go upside down, don't you?
I'm gonna go upside down in an open cockpit plane.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know you were allowed to do that.
Oh yeah, we are.
I said yes. I didn't tell my parents until afterward though. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Listen, if I don't come back, you want to upload these video files to the Dropbox.
So that is a 1942 Stearman. It is a primary World War II trainer.
Okay.
How do I prevent the camera from going flying when I go upside down? You know what's really cool? So from here, in my seat in this 1940s airplane, I can see the electric planes that they're building that are going to come next. Here's the thing that really blows my mind. When my grandfather was my age, this plane was state of the art. Like right around here somewhere, before all of this. Just think about everything that we've accomplished in aeronautics since then. Like, if we can do all of that, can we do something like this? We're facing these big challenges, right? Environmental, financial, technological, but I just keep thinking, could my grandfather have imagined the planes that he would see in his 90s? And the ways that we would use them? I bet you we can't either.
Cleo seems like a good bean. Y'all should go follow the channel, do all that stuff. Do all the things, you know what to do. Normally, an electric car doesn't have to expend energy just to support its own weight, even factoring in lift. There's a lot of energy going into lifting the battery, which doesn't get lighter over time with fuel, like with fuel too. Exactly. So another engineering challenge to overcome. Why not have a series of short flight electric planes and swap out the cargo at each stop? That way you can overcome the distance limitation. Yeah. Or like have like a transportation hub, like transportation hubs that you can, you know, schedule like train stops almost, you know? But you wouldn't have to build the infrastructure on the ground for it, you know? Additionally, like, in terms of, she mentioned like the problem of like charging batteries. You could have like a modular battery pack, you know, to like pop out of the aircraft when it lands to unload cargo, pop back in the other one, you're good to go. Like a fully charged one. Or this might be a wild idea, trains. True, I love trains. I'm just saying, like, we're not going to stop flying. Like, that's not just not going to be a reality that happens. People will continue flying planes until, like, the Earth is literally in apocalyptic situation. And you might be like, oh, but Jack, we're in an apocalyptic situation right now. No, I mean, like, truly, like, end times level, like, lava flow, at the end of Lord of the Rings scene level of apocalyptic, okay? Making all the planes takes a lot of CO2 budget and the expanded infrastructure for it. Sure. But also making the planes we make now is a lot of the CO2 budget. Flying cars when? Well, interesting that you bring that up, Neuron. Interesting that you bring that up, because I had a thing that I didn't think I was going to have a good transition for, but then you came along to ask about the flying cars, and well, here we go. Here's a fun little thing I found while researching electric aircraft. This looks fun as hell. I don't know. Looks cool. Would try. Anyway, yeah, that's a real thing. It exists. Like, actually exists. Not, that wasn't a render. Come on. Wait a guard. It just looks like a future thing. Would try, might die. That might be one of the most dangerous things I would try, you know? Any range specs on it? No idea. Look up the Jetsons thing. Jetson electric flying. Oh wait, here we go. Found the website. Okay. Personal aircraft, carbon fiber, powered by 8 powerful electric motors. Flight time 20 minutes, top speed 120 kilometers per hour. I'm gonna guess with a range of 20 minutes, the range is not far. But, looks cool. So cool. Anyway, Vaush is wrong about electric planes. They can and do exist, and they're only gonna get better from here, baby. There we go. There's my fundamental contention. Vaush is incorrect! But, you know, about not a politics thing, just like a technical thing. Very point to point, though. Yeah. Needs more work and battery. Well, yeah, I think right now it's more so a toy for the rich and famous. It's not really the thing we just watched, that Jetson thing. That's more just like a fun little thing that can exist. But I'm sure as battery tech improves, the type of range that has will also improve. 20-minute city with flying cars. You heard about the 5-minute city. Now wait for the 20-minute city.